Permanent Ink by Maxine on AO3. Summary. The words that bloom on Katsuki's arm are painfully familiar to a point that he can hear the grunting, wobbly voice saying them in his ear. They're specific in a damning way, but at the same time vague enough that it could be someone else who says them. Someone he still has to meet in a situation that hasn't occurred yet. Okay, so that's a bunch of bullshit, and he's not pathetic enough to cling to desperate hope like that for too long. But he's got some time to convince himself it's possible his soulmate is someone else. Anyone else. Deku's birthday is still a few months away after all. Chapter 1. You receive your words on your 17th birthday. The skin on your arm is blank slate one day, smooth and blessed empty, and the next day there's writing scrawled across it like some ghost in the night thought it was a scrap piece of paper. The words vary. It could be the first thing you utter to each other, a familiar phrase, a sentence that hasn't been yet said, or a greeting with a person you've yet to meet. But it's said that you'll know. That whether it's a conversation you already had or one that you're destined for the future, you'll know. There's no mistaking that the words on your arm are something your soulmate has already said to you or something that they will eventually say. Fate has determined that that's the person you're meant to be bound to. Fuck fate. Natsuki had never bought into that to begin with, unlike seemingly every other extra on the planet. He really didn't care what showed up on his skin. It wasn't something he was looking forward to, and the total lack of anticipation meant he probably wouldn't even stay up the night before his birthday so he could read the words whenever they finally showed up. The hell did it matter anyways? There was no way his supposed soulmate was someone he already knew. There wasn't a single person in his life that he could imagine being stuck with forever, so he figured whatever dumbass sentence scrawled itself onto his skin, it'd likely be something that hadn't been said yet. Some unknown rando in the future was probably who he was going to end up with, and maybe by then he'd give a shit about it. He kinda doubted it, though. It was hard to imagine caring about much of anything beyond becoming number one. He couldn't really even fathom a future that involved dating and marriage and crap like that. Sometimes, when he saw his classmates going on dates, starting to call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, and all that garbage, he wondered if one day some sort of switch was going to flip inside him that would make him do a 180 from fuck that noise to alright, let's get some. Frankly, it seemed like too much of a hassle. It wasn't like he was totally unaware of, like, urges and shit. Even his eyes lingered sometimes in the locker room, but it was all a distraction. There was more important things, and honestly, the assumption that some stupid words on his arm were irretrievably going to tie him to one single person forever was bullshit. If he ever had decided it was worth it, he'd date whoever he fucking wanted to. Thank you very much. It wasn't unheard of. The world was huge and not everyone was lucky enough to cross paths with their soulmates, so people did end up in relationship with someone that they weren't matched with. Those people were usually considered kind of unfortunate, even when they were perfectly happy. It was a sad but unavoidable social stigma. Even rare were couples who knew that they were meant for each other but somehow managed to live life separately or stay with someone else. It was all really fucking stupid, and Katsuki did not give a shit, so he ignored his phone blowing up with texts from every person under the sun, from his parents to his grandparents to his cousins he hadn't even spoken to in months, and went to bed at his usual time and didn't give it another second thought. Unfortunately, he lived with a bunch of nosy assholes, and 4 of them started banging on his door the following morning before the sun was even up. Bakugo! Dude, let us in! It's the big day! Come on, Baku! We want to see what your words are! Katsuki wrenched the door open, and his idiot squad tumbled halfway through, all bright-eyed and wide grins despite the early hour. For fuck's sakes, could you assholes be any louder? He complained, stuffing a hand through his hair. The hell do you want? Happy birthday, Kachan, Kaminari sang, shoving past Katsuki before he could try to slam the door in their faces and lock them out. He spun around once he made it to the middle of the room and propped his hand on his hips. So, is it good news or bad news? Do you know who it is? Sero asked before Kaminari spoke up again to add, is it someone cute? Katsuki was seriously about 2 seconds away from exploding all their faces. Guys, Kirishima said. We said we wouldn't annoy him about it. Alright, so maybe he would explode everyone but Kirishima. That was the only reason he stepped back. He told himself, a silent invitation to the others, that he was allowing them into his room because Kirishima wasn't actually that infuriating and he was attempting to be considerate, and Katsuki, despite all his huffing and puffing, didn't actually mind putting up with him. Kirishima smiled and clapped him on the shoulders as he walked past. Sarah gave him a thumbs up and Mina bounced along after him, looking like she was barely retaining herself from squealing out loud. Happy birthday, Baku! She cried, throwing her arms around him the second the door was shut. He was still feeling halfway charitable since it was his birthday, so he even managed to allow that for as long as it took him to exhale a vague, annoying breath, and then he pushed her off, gently. Yeah, he muttered, bringing a hand to rub at his eyes. It was still too early for this shit, even for him, so it was only when he lowered his hand again that he noticed all four of his friends staring fixedly at his arm. Oh, right. So, Kirishima shifted his weight from one foot to the other, and Katsuki rolled his eyes. He was so fucking obvious. All of them were. He didn't know if it was because he was the first one in their group to get their words, or what, but he really truly didn't get all the excitement. It was just going to be some random sentence that held no meaning for any of them. I haven't looked yet, he said, and immediately they all looked completely gobsmacked and stupid. Katsuki could see it in the corner of his eyes now, though, the scrolling across the side of his right forearm. Gross. He just had to live with that forever now, apparently. Soulmates were the worst. How haven't you looked yet? Mina wailed, and Katsuki promptly scowled at her. I just woke up. I was sleeping until you idiots barged in here. Cyril pressed his hand to his face. Oh my god, he muttered, and Kirishima's arms were now folded across the top of his head, let out in the most despairing, pathetic sound Katsuki had ever heard in his life. How? He demanded. How did you not stay up until they came? Holy shit, dude. I'm not going to bed on my birthday until every freaking letter is legible. How are you not dying to look at your arm right now? Thanky. Kirishima tried, but Kaminari just waved wildly at Katsuki. He's still not even looking! Because it's fucking dumb, Katsuki finally said. He shoved his hand into his pocket of his sweatpants, still not having read whatever was written on his arm. But admittedly, at that point, he was mostly doing that just to watch Kaminari flare like a dumbass about it. Okay, but seriously, Kirishima said. You're not even a little curious? Mina inched towards him like she really thought Katsuki wasn't going to notice. You have to look sometime. It doesn't matter, Katsuki grumbled. It's not gonna mean a damn thing. It's not like I've actually met my fucking. Ugh! He rolled his eyes. My soulmate or whatever. You don't know that, Kaminari said instantly. You have no idea. It could be anyone. Doubt it. Sero sighed. This is actually torture. Like, I actually kind of want to strangle you with my tape right now. Katsuki let out an irritated sound. If I look, will you all get off my damn back about it? It was luckily Kirishima was the only dorm neighbor he had, because the volume at which they all shouted alternative back at him was loud enough to shatter eardrums. Katsuki heaved the most put upon, aggravated sigh he could manage and pulled his right arm back out of his pocket. He wasn't sure what to expect, really. He definitely didn't think it was going to be anything profound or noteworthy. Hell, his dad had gotten stuck with his mom's very first greeting of him, which meant the phrase tattooed on his arm forever was, "Hey, nerd." So he honestly had pretty low expectations here. He was so completely unconcerned with whatever was written on his skin that it was really kind of a punch to the gut when he finally saw it, because not only did he recognize the words, but they were painfully familiar, to the point where he could hear the grabbling, wobbly voice saying them in his ear. They were specific in a damning way, but at the same time vague enough that it could be someone else who said them, someone he still had to meet in a situation that maybe hadn't occurred yet. Maybe. Okay, so that was a bunch of bullshit, and he wasn't pathetic enough to cling to desperate hope like that for too long, but maybe, right? Because there was no way. There was just absolutely no fucking way. You looked like you needed saving. Son of a bitch. Thank you so much for listening. This pod series will be uploaded every Friday. On Monday, I'm uploading a different pod series, and on Wednesdays, I'll be uploading one shots. Make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, and take your medicine. This is a threat. Do it.